Welcome to Newcastle Borough Council's Cabinet meeting today. Welcome to officers and members joining me in the room, and anybody that's listening and watching online. If you'd like to see the agenda, there's a link available to that, so you can see the agenda we're going through today. I'm going to introduce our Cabinet members first and foremost. Craig Scalding, Cabinet Member for Leisure, Culture and Heritage. Councillor Jill Heatham, Portfolio for Community Safety and Wellbeing. Councillor David Hutchins, Portfolio for Sustainable Environment. Councillor Andy Fear for Strategic Planning, and sitting next to me is Deputy Leader Stephen Sweeney, who's got the Portfolio for Town Centres and Growth, and I'm Council Leader Simon Tagg. We'll move on to item 1, which is apologies. We have all Cabinet members here. Item 2 is declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest for items on the agenda? Not seeing any. Next is our minutes, item 3, which is to agree the minutes of the previous meeting on the 6th of May. They're attached. Can we agree those as a correct record? Agreed. Thank you. That moves us to our first item of business, which is the Wallis Quarry odour issues. I'm going to ask Gordon to introduce the report in a moment, but as I've said, every Cabinet meeting, it's the first item on our agenda. Still is a massive issue for the Borough, even though odours are down and complaints are down. The long-term future of the site is really important that we do solve this issue for the long term for the people of Newcastle, and that's what the thrust of our officers and members here at the council are engaged with at the moment. So I'll hand over to Gordon to introduce the report.
Thank you, Leader. So the report for this month really follows the pattern of last month's update, where the report sets out that the Environment Agency continues to do works on the site to mitigate the risks of serious pollution. That is set out within the report, including a photograph of the new Hall Road, which has gone over the top, but that enables the contractors on site, Jackson's, to bring in materials to help that mitigation action. There will continue to be a number of vehicle movements across the site. We've not received any complaints or concerns from residents around that at this stage. In terms of complaints to the Borough Council, those figures are set out as usual. I would note that in May it was a very low number, 15 in total across the month, with the highest recording of complaints in a day being 2. We do encourage people to continue to report, but we are seeing this as a longer term trend now that those numbers are down and they're staying down. Obviously, we've had a significantly good period of weather, and we'll continue to be on the ball in terms of monitoring as we go forward, particularly into the autumn period and when we've had inclement weather, but it does seem to be a trend. Likewise with air quality, we're down to 0 emissions in the last reporting period. In respect of the company, as advised in previous reports, Wallis Quarry Limited has obviously been in liquidation for a period of time now. The council has written to the appointed voluntary liquidators around the monies that are outstanding to the council before the company is finally wound up, which we anticipate will be later this summer. We continue to work with agencies in terms of a move to recovery, and that will happen slowly, have slow transition over the next few months as we move from strategic incident into recovery and recovery planning. And as you've mentioned, Leader, a lot of work to do in that phase around what the future restoration of the site looks like. So that will be the subject of future reports back to this Cabinet. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon. I think it's really pleasing to see continuation of the low figures on both complaints and also from the monitoring equipment as the site is closed, and if it's been run correctly, as we've seen the Environment Agency bringing in people to do that work. And again, we had a warning, didn't we, a month or so ago about some works may create odours on the site. Other than I can see a very brief spike during this period. There has not been any ongoing odour issues from the work that the Environment Agency have been carrying out. through their contractor, which is a massive difference from the operator. When they carried out works, the numbers and complaints rose significantly because of the. It makes you wonder, when you have a different set of people doing the work, that they can keep the odours under control, whereas the operator was unable to do that, both when running the site and also when doing work on the site. So we're in a much better situation. I think we're turning, and think people are and the residents are turning to the longer term now. And what we want to see is that long-term plan for the capping and restoration of this site. So I'm really pleased that our officers here at the Borough Council are still engaging through the groups that we've got set up with partners such as the County Council, the Fire Service, the EA, government office as well, to ensure that we get to where we want to go. This site not to open again, but actually to be capped and restored, so that we can end this scourge on our borough that's been going on for far too long. And up to questions now or comments from cabinet members. Steve and then Andy.
No, I think it's good to see the things. I say this every time. I've got an allotment the other side of the road from there. I don't smelt anything for a month or two now. I'm there 4 or 5 times a week, so that's good. But I think absolutely we're moving to the restore and make the place good again. The ultimate aim of having another countryside park, if you like, and the fact that we're looking at that stage of the events now, I think is really good news to the people of Newcastle, and long may it continue. It also shows that if you run the site properly, it doesn't have to smell, which is a shame that the previous owners didn't think of that.
Andy.
Yeah, thanks very much. No, I'd like to endorse what Steve's just said. I went past the site at the weekend, and again there was no odour there at all. And I think this is a vindication of those of us who've said for a very long time that this site should have been closed, and it's been closed, and the smell has gone down a great deal. We have been lucky with the weather, and again, it sounds like a bit of a cracked record, but I mean, vigilance is important in that respect. But now, because the site has been closed, I think there's, a much bigger glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel than there was before. So, as has been said, we need to make sure that stays the case, and also that we need to now stay the final course to make sure that this land is restored properly, and from being a menace to the public actually winds up as a public amenity.
Thank you, Andy. Any other comments? So we were asked to note the report. We have done that, and we've obviously asked our officers, and they are concentrating on working with partners for the long-term restoration of this site. So long may the low odours and low complaints continue, and hopefully, as our chief executive said, as we approach the autumn, we hopefully will have some more information on the recovery and restoration plan for this site. All agree with the recommendation? Thank you. That brings us then to our next item, which is the Kidsgrove Town Deal update. It's been a while since we had an update to Cabinet on the town deal, and just to go through some of the achievements that we've had on Kidsgrove Town Deal is obviously the final piece of the jigsaw to refurbish the sports centre, that last bit of money that was needed to enable us to reopen the sports centre. And I do believe it was one of the first town deal money schemes in the country to be delivered, the reopening of sports centre, and it's gone from strength to strength and is a community asset for Kidsgrove. We've also had the readiment of the site at Chatley, which is enabling eventually 1,700 jobs to be created. The groundworks have all been done around there now, and I believe we are moving now to the stage of the private sector building units on there, which will then those jobs will come from that. We also had the advanced town deal money, which was used for the pump track in Newchapel, which is a great facility. Anybody that's been up there see that brilliantly used in a lovely area, and has really sort of set that area off. And part of it is part of our protected parks and green spaces as well up there, and also works to Clough Hall Park, and also the 3G pitches at the school, the King's School next to the sports centre. Brilliant state-of-the-art football pitches came out of that. And also canal works are underway, are almost completed now as part of this. So there's two schemes which he talks about in the report, which we're now moving on to, and that is the shared hub approach, which will include regeneration of the town centre around the station area. And then secondly is obviously the refurbishment of Kidsgrove Station. Now we thought we were going to have a bigger rebuild of Kidsgrove Station, but as it says in the report, we've been waiting a significant amount of time to see if money from the government was going to be honoured a significant amount of money to deal with any remediation to the site of the car park next to it, which would have been encroached upon with the works on Kidsgrove Station. A survey would have been required. The board was going to take the plunge and literally do the survey and find out what the groundwork issues were. But we've obviously been told that now there is no money to do any of the remedial work on that site, is that it wouldn't be a good use of town deal money to spend on a survey. I do differ with that, and I have said that at the town deal boards, I think we need to find out what is wrong on the car park and around the station. But we have been advised that we can't use town deal money for that because there is no onward government money, which was promised last year as part of the rejig money from HS2. That has now seems to have disappeared into the ether, and there is no money. So what we are bringing forward, which will come to Cabinet in the near future via the Town Deal Board, is a refurb of Kidsgrove train station. But moving back to the hub, which I think is the focus for this report, obviously slight change to the plans there and as set out in the report. But what we will get is a shared service hub associated with the Queen's School, and also the town centre area between the station and the post office library area being regenerated as well with some enterprise units. So I think a really good scheme which can bring a lot of difference to the centre of Kidsgrove. One of the parts of it has always seemed to be neglected. So to use town deal money for that is the right thing to do, and also to get that shared service area with the school right next to the sports centre, which has got the new 3G pitches, which is really a sports village there. We also have a place for services and service users to come to in that area too, and links to the canal through to the station as well from there as well. So it all comes together into quite a good package. So that's what we've got before us today. The Town Deal Board at its meeting last Thursday agreed for the change on the shared hub, so we can support that today on the back of them, and also made a decision to ask Network Rail to work up a alternative plan for the station, which includes the refurbishment of the station, but not the bigger rebuild, which is what was obviously what we wanted if the money was available, which is no longer available. So that's an outline on the report. So it's up now for questions and comments. Steve, and then Andy.
Yeah, if I can just talk about a couple of things, really. I'd just like to welcome really the investment in Chatley Valley and 1,700 jobs when the site's developed, and you know what's not to like about that. Apart from one Labour Party councillor in Kidsgrove who opposes this and opposed it all the time. I have absolutely no idea why he thinks bringing 1,700 jobs to that part of the borough is a bad thing, but he does. The other thing I'd like to talk about is and I always say this, the canal part of it. There's a lot of money in boating, there's a lot of money in canals, and Harecastle Tunnel is a massive part of this nation's heritage on canals, and it's something I think that's making more of it and improving the facilities from the canal into town is entirely sensible, because it's a growing thing, canals are, and it is a massive draw Harecastle is. So I absolutely support this. Thank you very much, Lou.
Craig.
Thank you, Leader. Firstly, I'd like to express my disappointment in the government for withholding part of this funding. Kidsgrove has benefited enormously from the town deal. Like the Leader mentioned previously, the first scheme delivered under the town deal was the Kidsgrove Sports Centre. It shows healthy membership, it's well supported by a vast array of classes, and it promotes better health and drives social interaction in the town as well. It's been a fantastic success story and one of the first delivered under the scheme. As well as that, we've got the pump track. Now, I drove past there the other day, and there must have been about 35 children playing in the area, running around on bikes, but you've got parents with them as well. So it curbs on what was previously a problem site. It curbs antisocial behaviour. It helps get children out into the fresh air. And again, another massive success story that would never have happened if it wouldn't have been for the Kidsgrove town deal. We've got various other things as well. Like I won't expand on what Councillor Sweeney said on the Chatley Valley site, but fantastic development that will create jobs. One that hasn't been mentioned is Kidsgrove CCTV project. Now, this is a project that was in the background for 2 years under the previous administration, and they refused to have anything to do with this. Now, this alone, we've got the benefit for health from the pump track, from the sports centre, the creation of jobs, but now we've got a sense of civic pride in the town itself, and a sense of people can walk around the town feeling safe and comfortable in their hometown, and that's what the town deals have supplied with us with the CCTV. So it all goes to show that investment and development like this it's the right way to go. And it's a great success for the residents of Kidsgrove. And I welcome any more funding that we make the most of, because it has been restricted in certain ways. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Andy.
Thanks very much. So I think, what we've just heard shows how much good the town deal has done. We've got leisure facilities, we've got questions about cutting out antisocial behaviour, and I'm going to go with Councillor Sweeney again. We've got an enormous investment in jobs and future. Jobs means prosperity, it means more money going into Kidsgrove, and it will help things. And the town deal has been great. Where now, of course, we seem to have a problem is with the government introducing doubt and delay into the process by not honouring the funding that was there. We see from the last town deal board that the board wants to go forward. There's no doubt about that. But the government is saying we can't do this. Now, once again, I think, this is the moment where we can see perhaps the current government, the history, of course, of Kidsgrove is one of voting for the party in power now, and these people are being taken for granted. We've got your votes, but we don't really care at the end of the day. So now I think it really is time for the local MP to step up to the plate and to use his influence, which is stronger in many ways than the influence of the council, to write to the relevant government departments, to write to Network Rail, to try and make sure that the people of Kidsgrove get what they were promised by the previous government, which has been taken away by the current government, with which I hope he has some influence.
Thank you, Andy. Yes, I think I wrote to the new MP within a couple of months or so of him being elected, just to point out that the money had been allotted. It was mentioned in Parliament. It was on the government's website. It had been won by our previous MP for the area, Jonathan Gullis, who had got the Secretary of State to come to Kidsgrove Station, and also Network Rail banging their heads together to ensure that they got this through and the money was secured as far as we were concerned. Obviously, that's no longer the case under the new government, but was disappointing really of the local MP, as you referred to, Andy, is that he never responded to my letter and still hasn't responded on the point. He's responded back in a combative way, trying to point fingers and pick a fight. But what he hasn't done is actually given us a reason why that money is no longer available. Neither did he do that to the town deal board when the chair wrote and asked a similar question. We're still waiting for an answer from that as well. And yet, obviously, this is, as you said, Andy, introduced uncertainty into the board, particularly on the Kidsgrove project, town station project. But he's then accused the council, or of course only one part of the town deal board, we don't chair the board, of dither and delay, etc. But you mentioned the last board and that agreement has been sought from the board to move forward on the new basis of both the hub and also for the station. I regret to tell you that the MP abstained and didn't support those that, as far as I'm aware. Where all other board members were in favour of pressing ahead and getting something done, adding a bit of pace, going away from any dither and drift, which was never there in the first place, but certainly wasn't demonstrated by the board, but seems to be demonstrated by the MP. So that's how I can update members on the actions of the MP. We're still waiting for a reason why that money is no longer there. It means we can't do the bigger project on the station, which have made such a difference to the town. The one we're planning now won't be as good, but will be a future-proof station, but again, around the station will now be left where it would have been upgraded and improved. That's because that money is no longer there. So we have a number of recommendations. We note the progress we made on the Kidsgrove Town Deal projects, which we've talked about. Approve the project adjustment form submission to MHCLG for the new Enterprise Units Community Learning Centre at the King's Academy, and canal footpath improvements and highway and public realm improvements at the Meadows, Station Road, Market Street, the Avenue and Heathcote Street, along with the public toilets upgrade in King Street, and also I believe the car park by the town hall is going to be finally resurfaced. Anybody that's ever been to the car park at Kidsgrove Town Hall will know you sort of disappear down a pothole. And the access road as well will be, which leads to the car park, will be sorted out. So that's included in this as well. And that, of course, is the first part of that public realm highways, enterprise units and the King's Academy works will all be part of that hub arrangement we just discussed. And then we note the risks currently set out to the railway station scheme. I think we've discussed that. The money seems to have disappeared, but we do have a fallback plan, and Network Rail are working on that to bring that to the board. And then we agree any further reports as necessary. We'll be having them later in the year to Cabinet. So that's the recommendations. All agreed? Agreed. Thank you. That then moves us to our next item, which is the Finance and Performance Review Report. I think we can call this our ongoing Doge report. Seems to be in the headlines at the moment. I pronounced it right, haven't I, Steve?
Doge, yeah, I think it's Doge.
Doge, that's right. Seems to be big in the news at the moment. So we do regularly monitor our finance and our performance, and we have a report today, as we do at quarterly, to our Cabinet. And Steve's going to introduce the first bit, which is the financial part of it. Then we'll move on to performance.
Yeah, thank you, leader. Yes, Newcastle Doge. What a ring that has to it. Yeah, the thing that I always highlight on this one, the first part of it is the revenue, and we're actually £20,000 underspent on our revenue budget. And I think a lot of councils in this country would be in a happy position to sit down and say we're underspent on our revenue budget. You'll also see on here, I think there's the three items of investment. We've got the High Street Fund at the top, which is all spent, all the money's apportioned to be spent. And then the state of play with the other two scenes, with first one is going to be Newcastle and the second one is going to be Kidsgrove. So they're both well on the way. So all in all, this is the year-end accounts, and I'm very happy to put that we haven't hidden anything. It's all here. Anyone wants to read it, they can. The money for the UK SPF has all been spent as well. So we're doing what we're supposed to do. We're putting money in and we're sending out to earn its own value to our residents rather than sit in the bank. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Any comments on the finance part of that report? I think back to what Steve has said, we're obviously received a lot of government investment over, well, pre-July 2024, of course, and even though we've had a reduced figure for the UK Shared Prosperity Funds since then, but most of the money we are now spending for the benefit of Newcastle Borough, whether that be regeneration in the town, here in town centre, or the regeneration up in Kidsgrove or Nutton, where we're doing regeneration as well, has all come from the previous government's funding. But it's good to see that we do have that underspend ongoing. As you say, a lot of councils would be want to be in our position. That's through the good financial management, our own Doge efficiency boards, which have been going on since 2017, at least in this council. Every year, cabinet members and officers working on our budgets going forward to ensure that every saving is taken out. We do then spend on money which are our priorities. Now, it'd be interesting to see if other people think that the Queen's Gardens outside, which is currently being replanted now for the summer, isn't a priority. Well, we think it is. That's money. That's not money wasted. That's money invested in our town. Those type of things, our museum, our J2 and all of those type of things, that is where we spend our money. We've decided to do that, and we'll take any comers that say we shouldn't be spending that money on there and defend that spending on there. But we don't waste money in this council, and we try not to. And if we see any, we eliminate it through our efficiency process every year. So that's the finance. Thank you, Steve, for your work and your team on that. And of course, the efficiency board process is up and running pretty much as of now for next year's budget setting, where we have to save in the region of £2 million again every year. We seem to be able to do that, and we've done that since 2017, and this council has done that since all the way back to 2008.
Just add something to that.
Steve, just add yes.
As a matter of interest, since we took over, we've saved £16.83 million at the budgets.
Thank you. And, you go out there and ask people, I think services, the key frontline services have improved during that period, whether it's recycling, whether it's our approach to street scene and et cetera, and fly tipping removal and stuff like that. And also the money we put into the regeneration has also been, from the government, has been supplemented by council money as well to ensure we get these wins for our residents. That moves us then to the performance indicators. This is the final quarter that we're looking at up until April 2025, just gone, covering the first year of the new performance data. So we've spent a year now bedding this data in. We've got 65% meeting their targets, which I think is what we were probably expecting from the new indicators. We're always getting to high 80s, 90s% in some of the old indicators. So we stretched ourselves this year, and that's obviously had an effect on bringing that total down, but also it allows us to sort of concentrate on where we're seeing the reds, where we're seeing the off targets, to work on getting those back on target. So the first priority is one, council delivering for local people, and the first page there has a red under the percentage of business food inspections completed on time. David.
Yes, thank you, Leader. Between April and December, 12 of the 14 inspections were completed on time. Following this time, all inspections have been completed on time, but unfortunately, the quarter where we fell below has affected the yearly quota, and that's why it's under the 96%.
Thank you, David. And under there is percentage of stage 1 complaints processed within 20 days, just slightly under the target there. And if you read the comments there, you'll see that all of the 3 responses were sent out within the time frame during this quarter. It's just because of the slight fall is due to impact earlier in the year on a couple of complaints, but we are just below the target, expect to be back on target, which is a stretch target on what we had in the last financial year before this. So moving on then to the next page, and we have some indications there of sickness still being is an amber, but is again, we believe we have measures in place to bring that back on target in future years. Future quarters, over the next future years. And then if we move then to our next red, which is percentage of council tax collected, and Stephen's going to talk about this.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. On the face of this is 0.7% down. However, this cut-off is on the 31st of March, and it says on here, collection continuing for 24-25 bills, so may be achieved retrospectively. Well, the money we've collected in the last 2 months for last year's figures, if we put those in, we actually end up with a figure that is 97.4%. So that is simply the money we've taken. Like they say on here, so we've been chasing the money, put it into last year's figures, and that's the figure we get, which is 1/10 of 1% off, which I don't think is too bad. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And again, that stretch target from previous years, but also I think around that indicator, which is in red, are a couple of greens, which we want to talk about. And that is the collection of non-domestic rates is above target. And also the processing of housing benefit for claimants is also heading in the green direction as well. So that shows that when we need to collect money, as Steve says, we are catching up on last year and have collected almost to the target already. But also when we're collecting business rates, we're doing that efficiently, and also we're paying out housing benefits efficiently as well. So a good overall picture, and then that red is already moving in the right direction. That moves us then to the next one council delivery for local people, and that is the total number of online transactions. Okay, just below the target again, but I think what we've said in the last couple of meetings is you could flip that around as well, because obviously people are dealing with their issues on the website efficiently and being dealt with rather than being potentially more clicks to get where they want to go. And also we're filtering out those that aren't correctly coming to this authority. It may be highways, inquiries, it may be social care and stuff like that, which are now being passported to the relevant authority. So not too worried about that. And I think it does show that we are getting people to where they need to be for their queries to be resolved on online transactions. And of course, we still offer phone and in person at this council also. So moving on then to our second priority, was successful and sustainable growing borough. And we have a series of indicators here relating to and in the planning area. Andy, do you wish to make any comments on those? All looking green? Oh, okay, green is good enough for you. But again, I think this shows a long period of these indicators for our planning, which is dealing with getting that regeneration through, getting residents' applications through, whether that's pass or fail, depending on the ruling of our planning officers, is something that we do quite well here, and we're above target. So that concludes that.
Perhaps I should just say that this is all being done at the same time.
As the local plan is being put through, so there's a heavy load on our planning section at the moment, and they're rising to the challenge magnificently, I think.
Something to say after all, which is good. Thank you for that, Andy. That's a good point. We move then to healthy and active, safe communities, and we've got a raft here of recycling indicators. First of all, for David, we've got one red as well, but the rest are green. But just tell us about those, David.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. The percentage of material that's been collected for recycling has dipped below the 50%, unfortunately. It's currently 48.10. Garden waste tonnage is down for December, resulting in the performance dipping below the 50%. Dry recycling retonnage is slightly up on the previous year, which is a positive trend. From April 2025, the council has now added flexible plastics and film along with cartons to the material that's being collected from households. Work is ongoing with targeted communications to help improve this recycling rate.
Anything to say on the other recycling ones before we move?
Yeah, the percentage of the percentage of households that are interacting with the food waste is 43.15%, which is above the 37% target. We've met target for the residual waste, and we've met target for the successful collections. The successful collections, as we can see there, is 99.95%. So for every 10,000 collections, we only miss 5, which is, again, a great target. Onto the next page, we have 98% of streets free of litter. Sorry.
That in a second, David. Yeah, I think just on that, the red, I think we also have to note that we obviously the suspension of garden waste collections over that winter period for a short period as well will obviously mean people aren't filling their bins because they know they're not going to be emptied until the end of January. So I think we have to take that into account as well. But again, 48.1 with a target of 50, plenty of room for improvement. And of course, we want to get higher and higher in our recycling rates, and our policy and our stance on recycling with the food waste collections, with taking in plastics and films and cartons, etc., is all to do with that. And hopefully we'll see some improvement on that going forward. Thank you for that on your recycling ones. Now turn to your obviously street scene ones, which you were just about to launch into.
Yeah, we have a system that generates the streets at random. So it selects A roads, B roads, residential roads, retail roads, industrial roads, and it sends the team out to inspect and then report back. So we had 98% free of litter, 100% free of detritus, 100% free of graffiti, and 100% free of fly posting. The 98% is above the target of 92. Any information gained helps us to improve the street cleaning in the borough.
Thank you. I think on those, it's good to talk about the greens as well as the reds, and that's what you've just done there. I think some really good results. And of course, people will say, well, what about that litter over there? Or what about the litter over there? Of course, this is a survey that takes place on a suite of roads that we've been doing for many, many years. And this is a really good result based on how we measure them, which I think is a nationally recognised formula for measuring detritus and all the other things that in the street scene area. So really good set of results. But there's always that bit of litter that somebody drops. That's why we've launched Civic Pride, to try and ask people not to drop their litter in the first place. That would certainly create 100%, wouldn't it, all of the time on every street. But of course, that's not going to happen. So what we do is we ensure that the streets are cleaned on a regular formula basis, which has been the same for many years. And this survey takes a sample of that, doesn't it, and showing really good results for this council. So congratulations to the street scene team. And I think also for the enforcement that we can now do around this as well, whether that's fines for fly tipping or for littering. We've got those which our officers through our multifunction team can actually go out and do, which is a deterrent, which is all part of Civic Pride. So really pleased with that page of results. That brings us now to the next page, which is in the active and well-being and community safety area for Jill to talk about.
I'm quite pleased that our ASB, antisocial behaviour, has reduced each quarter in the past year. We're still working with other professionals to continue this trend and contributing to a county-wide ASB policy. It does mean that some cases haven't closed quickly, but when you're working with ASB, and particularly with other organisations, you are looking at working with them fully so that you don't have a recurrence of this issue. Do you want me to go on to the next page? Okay. So with the housing or the referrals to the hub, the vulnerability hub, that's quite positive. We continue to work with a high number of cases on the vulnerability hub, but we're also looking at options to continue the role of the safe recovery officer. That's been pivotal really in this vulnerability hub, working with vulnerable individuals. I'm quite pleased to say though, with the Open Disabled Facilities grant inquiries, that has been very, very positive. When we took over the transfer in-house in April 23, there were 315 open applications. That's now reduced to 190, so that's coming along quite well. Housing applications, the trend is increasing, but positive nomination targets for Aspire and other providers has been met. It's a difficult situation because obviously we're getting more and more people presenting as homeless, but it is looking quite promising in that we're working with them. Total rough sleeper figures remain stable, and we continue to work with those individuals. At the last count in that quarter, we had 7 rough sleepers.
Thank you, Jill. Just on antisocial behaviour, you were at a meeting I was with members of the public there, where one of them launched into this town is so unsafe and its crime is rampant and etc. etc. These figures obviously show that's not the case, and the figures continually from the police have shown that's not the case. And we do try to get that message out there. This is a safe town centre. Come and enjoy it in the day. There are always going to be issues, just like there is with litter. There's always going to be instances as well, which the police will deal with and our community safety team deal with. And there is not a mass amount of homelessness on the streets of Newcastle neither. Again, we have them. They come and they go, like every area, and we can deal with them. We can either give them support, which is the course of action we want to take, or we can exclude them from the town, and we do that with the police more and more. So I think it's that getting that message out that this isn't that there's a perception that there's a problem of antisocial behaviour and homelessness when that's not necessarily the case. And I walked around the town centre before this meeting and I didn't see any of those issues. And I often walk around at various hours, morning, lunchtime and late afternoon. And that's not the picture I see of the town. I'm a user of the town centre. Jill?
Yeah, I can echo that. Obviously, the police are quite responsive and we are looking at more patrols during the summer because obviously when you get warmer weather you get more people out, but I have to say it's not been my perception that it's not a safe place to be, and people that do talk to me say they would rather come to Newcastle because they do feel quite safe here and they don't see any evidence of that.
Thank you. That moves us to the next set of indicators, which is in Craig's area for heritage and sports and leisure.
Thank you, Leader. The first performance indicator is non-applicable. This has been omitted. This is the number of people accessing the museum. This has been omitted because we've got a new monitoring system for visitors to the centre, and it's already collating data now that we'll be able to provide in the next quarter. The second item on there, J2 membership growth. Very healthy. Current membership standing at 4,119, which is well over the target of 3,000. The Active Life referral programs are proving an ongoing success, with now over 700 referrals within the borough. So this does help support membership growth as we get a high conversion rate from the Active Life programme. So we are going to be looking at developing this and expanding it into a wider area to support the growth of the J2 membership. In addition to this, it might be worth noting, although it's not reflected on these figures, the swimming lessons are showing a very, very good growth. They've grown to the current lessons now booked to 1,150, and that's grown in the last couple of months from 950 as well. So all of this supports the trend of sustainable growth throughout the centre and the whole. Thank you.
Thank you. As usual, really good news from both the museum and J2 there. And thank you for all the staff, both at the museum. I was up there on Saturday morning for the start of the mayor's walks around the boundary of the borough, and the museum was really vibrant. The cafe was full of people. This was Saturday afternoon, lunchtime area. So, and the museum was well used by families, which is really good to see. So, a real asset for the borough. And one of those things again when we come to talk about efficiencies and savings and Doge, whatever it's called, is that those type of things are what we choose to spend our money on, and that's what people want to see and want to use, and that's what we want to see protected. So thank you for that, Craig, and look forward to more reports from your portfolio on further successes of the museum and J2. That brings us then to the last indicators set, which is the town centre for all, and the first one is car parking. Steve.
Exactly. As it says on here, the car parking figures are slightly down by 4%. However, I believe that car parking at the moment is Newcastle and is very much in a state of flux. With new car parks being opened, old ones shutting, builders in, builders not in, all this sort of thing. Also, it says on here, numbers are being monitored, and they certainly are, as new use patterns and permit sales established. Because after you have a permit, you don't need a ticket, and this is tickets. It's not people using the car park, it's people buying tickets. So if you've got a permit, you can have a ticket. So it's all being looked at the moment. It's being monitored, like we say, and we'll see how we go with it. Thank you.
Okay. Next one is the footfall. I think if you see in the comments there, we've had some problems monitoring the footfall, etc., from the bid and incomplete information. But I can say during this quarter we had the Castle car show, called Castle Car Capers, but it wasn't that, was it? Castle Cars show, which was really successful on a Saturday afternoon. The town was full of people coming to that. We've had our markets, which again on Sunday we had the artisan market, and we've had markets throughout this period as well. And we have the makers market. I'm going on to your bit in a minute, Steve, talking about the markets. We can come on to that in a minute, but I think it shows that the town is vibrant in the day. People working, visiting, coming in for interaction and whatever they need to do. Okay, we don't have the big high street shops anymore, but what town centre actually does, what we don't want is shops and businesses that local people and also people living in and around the town centre, and that's what our regeneration plans, which we've agreed at Cabinet in April, are all about, bringing people living and working and enjoying town, and that's the way forward for our town centre. So hopefully that will increase footfall over the years as well. Then we move to market, Steve. Sorry I stole your thunder.
Thank you. No, market's coming on well. All the specialty ones doing very, very well. There's a couple of days we need to improve for the general market, but that's in hand. No, generally, I think, as Jill says, you said, Newcastle's a nice place to come. You walk up the Ironmark on a day like this now, a nice sunny day, there'll be people outside having cups of teas or a pint or something on tables and things. It's just a nice, welcoming environment. And I come down every Saturday because I do enjoy a breakfast, as you might have guessed. And that's the town centre I see, a nice, welcoming town centre. Even the buskers we got, most of them are pretty good. They had a bit of something to it as well. No, I think it's a success story, our town centre, to be honest with you. Despite what people say, how I was in another pub one day and I said, how many rough sleepers do you think we actually have in Newcastle? And this chap says, well, it must be 50. I said, no, you count on one hand. But it's perception. The perception's just wrong. And it's changing that perception to people. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you for telling us about your trips around, your meanderings around the town centre, which is obviously keeping some of the businesses in business. But I think you're quite right, because I can remember the 90s town centre, and I used to regularly come into town to use the banks in those days to deposit money, being self-employed, etc. And the town was empty. You didn't see people sitting outside. You didn't see them around the Guildhall. The market was dead. This is the 1990s. I think we've actually come back from the brink and are actually on the up. And I think all the things we're doing, particularly supporting the market, which we do and we want to continue to support, and it needs to grow and evolve. And I think we're going to be doing more of the evolving over the next few months as the makers market changes its day and comes on a Saturday. I think that's really great for the town centre. I think we need to begin to look at how we grow the other markets as well still. But again, that's all dependent on footfall, and that footfall is coming back because of the use of the town centre now is changing, and that incidental trade which market holders can benefit from is going to only increase. as it goes forward. We do get shops leaving, of course, which we saw Chatwins, didn't we, close recently? Again, I have trouble believing their reason for that drop in footfall, because I see Greg's, I see Wright's Pies, where I went for my lunch earlier in town, packed out the door, full of students. I never saw any young people going into Chatwins. They used to pass by Chatwins and go into the town centre on the way from college, which is the main footfall past Chatwins. So I think perhaps they should have moved with the times, rather than I didn't see any people doing home deliveries from there outside. Whether you see that outside Greg's, you see that outside waiting to go in to do home deliveries. So I think there is always a different story to be told than what you see on social media, perhaps. But our town centre is on the up, and it can only get better with the investment that this council is doing, along with our partners in the town centre, to bring that footfall back and people living and working. So thank you for that. That concludes our look at the performance. I think we have looked at some of the places where we need to improve on performance. We've also celebrated some of the places where, some of the bits where we are actually doing well, and there are plenty of those as well. And we'll obviously have first quarter of this financial year later in the year at the next cabinet. So that brings us now to item 7, which is the forward plan. This is where he goes back to his agenda. Now he's got it on screen. So we look at our forward plan for the next 3 months. The first page or so are about obviously this June meeting. Then we have a July meeting, which will have a Wallace Quarries update, a community safety partnership work plan, again talking about how we're making our borough safer, community pride strategy, empowering our communities, again all about how we're asking not only the council to work with the community, but also the community to work with us on in empowering civic pride. And then that quarter one I talked about comes later in the year as well to a cabinet, and also town deal board updates from Kidsgrove, as we talked about earlier, and also Wallace Quarry updates as well through to September at least. So that's the forward plan. Can we all agree? That leads us to item 8, urgent business, don't have any. Item 9 is disclosure of exempt information, don't have any of those. And I've had no request to speak at cabinet from members of the public or councillors. So that concludes the council meeting today. Thank you.